When we went to the Himalayas, we were looking to see if we could find similarities and perhaps interesting differences between the experience that the Himalayan region is having with climate change and what I've seen in my other research in the Arctic when it comes to climate change and the way it affects people. We heard some things from people in eastern Nepal that sounded awfully familiar to me. We're seeing insects we've never seen before. There are plants growing here that didn't used to grow in this area. We're concerned about what climate change might do. We're worried about the introduction of new diseases. We used to see snow here every winter, but now we hardly see snow at all. We're worried about what the hotter weather is going to do, how much extra heat stress it's going to produce for people and for animals. A lot of these things sounded very familiar, and so that was particularly interesting, and I think there's some interesting grounds for further comparison and research. What I suppose I hadn't been quite so prepared for was the degree to which human-environment interactions are such a strong part of daily life and daily discourse in Nepal. So not only talking to people when we were out in eastern Nepal, but also just reading the newspaper in Kathmandu, those things came up again and again and again. There were articles on zoonotic diseases, the diseases that spread from animals to people and what might happen with those. There were articles on water quality, especially along some of the major trekking routes, and contamination of lakes and rivers and so on. There were articles about Sangkhu Asaba, the district in which we were trekking, aspiring to become recognized as a tea-producing region, which obviously requires having the right climate for growing tea. There were articles about even things that may not seem so necessarily connected to climate change, such as land reform and providing land for people who have no land at the moment. Well, if you're going to provide people with land, it would be nice if it was good farming land, or it'd be a cruel blow to them to give them land that wasn't suitable for farming. All of these things, and other things like hydroelectric power too, all of these things are potentially affected by climate change, which can change precipitation patterns and river flow affecting the hydroelectric power. It can change the rainfall and plant growth and so on, determining which lands are suitable for farming and which ones aren't. It can change a number of other things. It can change the patterns of diseases. It can change changing water flow can change the water that's available for people and can either concentrate contaminants and pathogens and so on, or perhaps make things a little bit better. If you have a little more water flow, it may make it less likely to transmit waterborne diseases. And so all of these things are potentially affected by climate change, and so it becomes very important in any type of planning that's for longer than a year or two to take into account the things that climate change might do. And I think that's, for me, the chief message of that I got out of our experience there, was that climate change is something that we simply cannot afford to ignore. And that too is something that I think is very similar to the Arctic, and an area I think where there's the potential for maybe sharing some ideas and experiences and adaptations between the Arctic and the Himalayan region.